All right, good evening. This is the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, August 11th. Pursuant to the Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's order of March 15th imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Select Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found in the Office of the AG website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. The town will persevere to use the conference call capability regularly for other parties to listen in and participate accordingly. If not possible, we will post on the town's website an audio recording as soon as possible after the meeting. That wasn't on our thing from last time. I had to dig it off the other last week's agenda. So first thing, Russ, would you kindly say have some thoughts about Luther, please?
Yeah. I think most people know that Luther Hosmer passed away over the weekend. Luther was a longtime resident of the Southwick. He served for many years as a volunteer firefighter, retiring as a captain, also as an EMT. And of course, I think he's over 30 years a water commissioner for the town of Southwick. Luther is a very dedicated individual, family man, and his family was very instrumental in establishing our volunteer fire department. So we've lost part of the history of the town of Southwick. So if we could have a moment of silence, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Thank you.
Now we can find a flag and we can pledge allegiance to the flag and kick off this meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the dog wants in on that.
We have an Amazon truck.
Oh, so it's your alarm system's going off.
So that means Sue's been busy.
Okay, so let's knock out a couple of things here. First is the payables warrant 2104B dated August 10th in the amount of $435,858.53. Has anyone reviewed the minutes of August 4th and would like to make a motion for same?
I looked at them. I guess they're fine. I'll make a motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Olive's got third. Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe TDI.
Russ Fox, aye.
Fantastic.
One abstention from Olive.
Do you guys want to take this in order, or do you want to cover some of the stuff that was added to the agenda here?
Yeah, let's get rid of Randy.
Okay. Randy,
Yes, sir.
what can we do you for?
I'm only on because I didn't know if you want to have any questions about the storm cleanup. I know there are a couple items related to that, but
Well, why don't we dig
whatever
right
you
into
got
that?
from me, I'm here for you.
First of all, very much appreciate all the help and everything. I know you guys had a very busy weekend. Busy weekend. Helping some folks through this event. And I guess it was really Saturday night or early Sunday when we finally got everybody their power back in town. And I don't know if Comcast and Verizon are finished yet. I don't know. Carl, have you heard anything on that?
No, Verizon had not shown up today, so I called their individuals and they were going to move the issue and elevate it up because of the summer drive issue. And I told them that they would need to touch base with Randy if they got a hold of anybody to address that issue. And if they did not do that, then we would be addressing the matter tomorrow with crews that Randy and Chris would be bringing in with outside vendors, and we would settle on that expense later with with that utility. Because we just can't have that be delayed any longer.
Sure.
That's probably the last main issue on a public way, right, Randy?
Yeah, that's the location right there, Summer Drive. I
Right.
did talk to a homeowner Summer Drive about 4:30 this afternoon, and he said there was a Verizon truck out front. But that's all I know. I don't know what specifically they were looking at.
Right. Well, you and I have been already driving around looking at things. More or less, the issue has got to be acted upon with the appropriate tree cutting and crane equipment.
That's just that, that's
Yeah,
that
we
one
have,
tree that's on the guy's house,
Yep. The one with the,
Mr.
Yeah,
Bro.
there's also a car that's buried underneath that rubble there. So we've got our crews have been going out cleaning up the debris off the roadside today. Tynick Landscaping are also started that process, so we're working in conjunction with them. And tomorrow, Top Notch Tree Service will be in town to remove that large tree on Summer Drive, and also to take care of some of the larger stuff that we can't handle with our own equipment. And all this debris is being shipped to TJ Park Mills for disposal.
Great.
so that's why,
All these costs. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, all these extra costs are coming in. We're going to need additional funding to cover. And I think that's one of the votes you have in front of you tonight is to approve deficit spending for that forestry line item to cover these costs.
yep, there's a whole host of votes that we need to take, Doug. There's at least 4 of them that are related to each other.
Okay. Do you want to put those forth now so we can take care of them now while we got it in front of us?
Sure, you want to do the, Charlie Dunlap had given you the declaration, so you want to just do your declaration of emergency for the storm cleanup and activation and response. So you want to do that as that's the first step you have to do in order to ask the DOR to do the deficit spending. So you must do this local designation.
Right. So you need a vote of the board in order to do that, correct?
Yeah, well, it's at the same time, it could be ratifying your signature as the chairman.
Make a
Well-
motion for the chairman to sign, Joe Didi.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye?
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
Fantastic. There's your first vote. What else votes do you
Okay,
need, Carl?
the next one is the authorization request to the Massachusetts Department of Revenue for storm response spending pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31, which then is where the DOR, we send the letter tomorrow, signed by you, Doug, and get permission to deficit spend the forestry line item. And then that allows Randy to have those vendors pay those bills. And then we go from there. And then we have the other votes that we're going to talk about after that vote. That's your next vote.
So Joe Didi will make that a motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye?
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
Okay, and now the next one is the approval of the Town of Southwick Code, Chapter 8-2 for the emergency waiver that storm, so that Randy can bring in other vendors along with the emergency tree vendor that he had. Did they ever show up, Randy, that other company that was an emergency tree vendor under bid? Or, because I know you had to go to.
Yeah, the first night of the storm, Top Notch could not show up. We went to a local vendor, but Top Notch is our emergency tree vendor, and they'll be here tomorrow with their big equipment.
All right, and then we're gonna,
Plus-
we had to supplement their efforts starting last week with Tynick so that we could get the rail trail opened.
Correct.
So you need to take that vote.
Joe Didi makes the motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye?
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
Okay,
The short story on all that, Carl, is we need to do these votes and declare this, even though the kind of emergency has passed, but this will enable us to deficit spend some of the stuff that we already incurred expense, and then we've got a couple other expenses coming up
And that
to
would help
recover
you.
from this.
Right, that would help you with the permission from the Department of Revenue to do that. And that may now allow you we'll table the FinCom Reserve Forestry account. Sign up. Actually, you know something? Why don't we have the chairman authorized to sign a Finance Committee reserve request in the event that we need that? Because the other thing that I was cognizant about was, we're in August now. We could have several more storms that could trigger other things. So we did not want to deplete that reserve account completely and then have an issue where we had to call an emergency special town meeting in light of the COVID issues, because I think you're trying to hold off on any town meetings till next year, so until this pandemic passes. So this will be another tool that we could authorize the chairman to have if he needs to respond to the financial aspects of the emergency and the cleanup.
Joe Didi will make a motion for the chair to be in charge of signing off on the next 15 goddamn storms we get before his term is up.
Russ Fox will second.
And I hope you guys are all wrong about that. Doug Moglen, aye.
At least 5 more. Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
So again, thanks to everybody. I know the police, fire, DPW, Joe, Carl, Russ, everybody who was out and about trying to, I know there was a couple people that kind of felt they were caught in the switches with some of this stuff, but the town was out there trying to help people we could as best we could and answer questions and try to get services back. I know that the federal government has not declared this an emergency. They're not going to declare this a disaster. Connecticut got that designation, but not Massachusetts. And I never heard anything from the state level, the same difference. So they're not declaring any type of emergency. So I don't think we're going to be in a position to get any kind of significant reimbursement for any of these costs, but we are going to have to be able to move some money around to cover the costs. And they had to be incurred at the time that they were incurred, given the situation that we were in. So
Right.
we would have still been in a prolonged period of issue if we hadn't done some of the things. And there were some safety issues. There were some trees that were in precarious spots, the rail trail, and so on.
Yeah.
And even the cleanup along some of these roads to make them passable and safe for emergency vehicles if they need to get there and so on.
Right, and so that's the priority that Randy's been dealing with, but he'll also be dealing with Bob Johnson on any trees that have to be removed on town property, including Wally Park, Town Hall, Prifty Park. So all of that all comes under this umbrella to give Randy the ability, the authorization, and the vendors to go do what he needs to do and work with those other entities and departments.
Exactly. All right, are we done with the emergency for today?
Yep.
Okay. Good thing this wasn't a work session. All right, so what's your pleasure, gentlemen? We want to move to the appointments or goals and objectives?
Do we want to address your letter first, Doug?
We certainly can. So last week, we discussed this briefly and I mentioned it. I did draft a letter that I'd like to have sent to Ms. Calabrese at the MMA regarding the op-ed piece from Jeff Beckwith and the MMA's purported support of the two bills that are pending in conference committee regarding very significant structural changes to the police department for licensure, police officers for licensure and certification, and certain rules and regulations that would, pardon the pun, handcuff the police department's ability to do their job. And both bills were passed very, very late at night, and there hasn't been a lot of talk about them since about the conference committee. So I just want to send this letter. We weren't consulted as a member of the MMA, which we go to their annual conference every year. And part of that meeting in Boston is to decide what the legislative agenda is going to look like that the MMA is going to, discuss with members of the Senate and the House and the governor. And this wasn't on it. and we weren't at all consulted in this process. So I just figure it's worth it, given the relationship that we have with the police department, how highly regarded our police department is held in our town, and what a good job that, overall that they're doing. I think the legislation flies in the face of that, and I don't want to have the appearance that, as a member of the MMA, that we're at odds with our police department at this point. So I drafted the letter. I think everyone got a copy of it, and I'd like to just have a vote on it if there's any changes to it, or have a vote on it and send it off to the MMA.
Mr. Chairman, could we also CC the executive director and the selectman's president and the city president? I'm lost now for the terminology.
Mass City Councilors Association, Russ?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have the Selectmen's Association. And
Right.
what's the other association?
It's the Massachusetts City Councilors Association.
Okay.
Plus you have
Those
the
are-
managers and the finance committee. You got
And the mayors, we might as well
The mayors.
CC all of them, the head of all of them.
Okay. We can look that stuff up in the latest roster of leadership, and we can add those as CCs. And then we'll prepare this tomorrow for you guys to come by and sign off.
Do you need a motion to sign?
I would like one, yes.
So Joe Didi will make that motion for all the select boards.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I think it sends the right message to both the MMA and to the residents of our town and our public safety officials. Okay. Now, we got it down to the two items we were supposed to talk about tonight. So we've got appointments or select board goals and objectives.
Appointments for $50.
Sold.
Okay.
Sold to the man in the green shirt. No, they're both in a green shirt. Okay, so the first, have we done any of these, Carl, besides the fire department?
I'm not sure. Cindy, did we do police and emergency management? Can you unmute yourself? Sandra, you gotta unmute yourself.
We've done the fire department,
Yeah, okay.
and everything else needs to be done. This department was just after this we did.
Yeah,
We
we
did do
can't
the
hear
police
you.
department. We did the police department?
Okay.
Okay. You know how when you buy stuff at the town level, you get it from the lowest bidder? Good Lord. All right,
Cindy,
so,
did
go ahead.
we also do emergency management, Cindy? Just nod yes or no. Okay. So it looks like those three are done.
So do we have to reappoint any town department heads? Like Alan Slessler?
Well, yeah, I'm looking at this. I think you did Jessica Thornton at a
We
previous.
did, that one's done. Jessica
Right,
Thornton
so-
is done.
So now you got to do Alan, which just go right in line.
All right, so we need a motion for the town planner, town accountant, animal inspector, director of assessment,
Uh,
supervisor of buildings and grounds.
Point of
Deputy-
order. Mr. Chairman, should the animal inspector, Cindy, be Tracy Root or Liz Bennett?
Correct.
Because it's generally the, yeah, it should be Liz Bennett there.
All right, so we'll substitute animal inspector is Liz Bennett. And
Yeah.
then supervisor of buildings and grounds, deputy building inspector, alternate building inspector, is that still correct?
Yep,
And sealer and weights and measures is correct?
yep, that's under contract.
Okay, and gas and plumbing inspectors. Why don't we just knock those out? I need a motion for those.
So moved.
Russ Fox will second.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, no, you gotta
Aye.
do roll call. Crap. Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe DDI.
Russ Fox, aye.
Board of Appeals?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
after reading the regulations and having met with the gentleman last year, I would propose the following. A 3-year appointment for William Liss, a 2-year appointment for Christopher Mascherani, a 1-year appointment for Paul Gregoire, and 1-year associate membership appointments for Thomas Stapleton and Michael Parent. And I believe that would bring us into compliance.
Okay, can you say that one more time, Russ?
3 years, William Liss. 2
Yep.
years, Christopher Mascherani. 1 year, Paul Gregoire. And then Thomas Stapleton and Michael Parent, the associate members, 1-year appointments.
Okay.
Do we want to second that motion?
Joe Didi will second it.
Okay. Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe DDI.
Russ Fox, aye.
Okay. So I'm going, we got more employees here. So I need an omnibus motion here for alternate building inspector, Stan Braska, wiring inspector, Robert M. Johnson and Sean Stopa. Randy still on the phone?
Yeah.
Randy, you up for another year? You're in? All right, Randy's in. Special assistant to the DPW, Richard Grinnells, and DPW supervisor, Chris Faria. Tree warden,
in.
Randy Brown again. So I need a motion for those.
Joe Didi will make the motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe DDI.
Russ Fox, aye.
The ad hoc open space and rec committee that's done, correct?
That's done,
We need to
Mr. Chairman.
That's done. Nope, that's just, you disbanded it by vote.
Did we, or we need to do that now?
You did.
Okay.
Oh, good. All right. Ag Commission. Dennis Clark, Ron Cecchini. Cecchini? How do you say that
Cecchini.
properly? Thank you.
Cecchini.
Chikini.
Giacchini.
Tammy, Diana Flynn, Bert Hansen, Lenita Bober, Kevin Solik, Marissa Cook Obregon, Zach Barnett, Brett Colson, Daniel Cook.
I'll make a motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe DDI.
Russ Fox, aye.
Animal Control. Royal Bridges, Liz Bennett, and Dawn Angel. We already appointed Liz Bennett as the animal inspector. Is that different than, yeah, that's different than
Oh, yeah.
animal control.
Exactly. Two different things.
Yep, just making sure.
So Joe Didi will make a motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe DDI.
Russ Fox, aye.
And do we have an appointment for capital expenditures? Will Mark Krenicki like to continue on with that? Has anyone heard from him?
Yeah, I get the impression that he would like to continue. He has good attendance. He participates in the committee with Joe and I as members. Right, Joseph?
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. We're forcing him to stay on.
Okay, there you
Joe
go.
Didi will make that motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Okay, Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe DDI.
Russ Fox, aye.
Yeah, he's worked out fine.
Perfect.
Yep.
Concom? These are all one-year appointments.
I'll make a motion for conservation.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe DDI.
Russ Fox, aye.
And Council on Aging, Carol Laughlin, Paul LeBlanc, Donna Charon, and Harriet Fisher. And Harriet would be the associate.
Joe Didi will make the motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe DDI.
Russ Fox, aye.
Cultural Council, Karen Deo and Susan Kochansky.
Joe Didi will make a motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
EDC, Amber Bach, Serena Fuller, Michael McMahon, and Craig Samuelson. This is also
Mr.
a
Chairman,
one.
I'd also like to add a name,
Sure.
Susan Zidek Kraus.
Can you spell that, Russell?
Thank you.
Zidek, Zidek hyphen Kraus, Kruse. First name Susan. She's
SUSAN.
right. A great member of the 250 committee. She's an attorney. She's a go-getter, and she wants to be involved in town government. And I think this would be a perfect fit for her to help that organization get back up and function, especially with this new grants that we're going to be working with the town of Agawam and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
That's good. We had a vacancy there anyway that we haven't been able to get anybody for, so this is very encouraging.
Anyone want to second Russ's motion?
Joe Didi will second that.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
Fence viewer is vacant in forever.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
you know, the fence viewer is not a legal position. It's an antiquated thing, and I think we should just permanently remove it.
You don't, Russell, you don't want to,
What was that, Carl?
I thought one day you said you wanted to handle that function.
Well,
No,
we can bring it back at that point, you know.
I thought he was going to be the driver.
Oh, the field
We have-
driver.
The
Field
field
driver.
driver.
Driver. You know what that was? So they could round up the cattle and the swine.
And occasionally sheep and geese. I know from experience.
The cops were doing that this weekend.
Well, Russ did start out as the dog officer.
Look
I've
at him
heard
now.
the stories.
Yeah.
Forest Fire Warden, Chief Russell Anderson. And is John Andrews, is he also an employee of the town today in another capacity, or?
No, he's not. And I have talked to him. He's still willing. I talked to him a number of months ago, and he still seemed to be wanting to carry on that function and work with the local veterans group. And if he needed help, he would call somebody. That's what he said to me.
Okay. And Health Director Tammy Spencer, can I get a motion for those three?
Joe Didi will make the motion.
You don't, the health director was appointed by the Board of Health.
Well, can't we just have one symbolically because she's doing
We
such
are.
a great job?
We're doing it anyways. Yeah. Motion was made.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, emphatically aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
High-speed internet, do we need to reappoint this board, or that's with us, with the Board of Selectmen now, or do you want to keep it for now?
I thought, Doug, I thought the committee was still continuing to meet and research things in terms of the future steps and would still be a resource to the board.
I know, I was just trying to get out of it, so I need a motion for that.
Well,
Committee.
as chairman, you're handling it both ways.
I'll make that motion. Joe Didi makes a motion.
Russ Fox will second that.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
Historical Commission, Lee Hamburg, Ruth Preston, and Barbara Phelps, and there's 2 vacancies.
Joe Didi will make the motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
Then we have Lake Management. I thought there was associates on this board, no?
Page
I
2.
think on the next
There is.
page, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, there's only one associate? Okay. That seems like a lot. All right, Richard Grinnell, Scott Graves, Norm Cheever, W.K. Phillips Jr., Malcolm DeBay, Michael DeBay, E. Michael Combs, Steve Schmid, Deborah Harath, Rick Wylot, Dr. Eric Muller, and Paul Murphy, and Rick is the associate on that board.
If you want, Doug, we could double check with Dick on the composition breakdown between regular members and associates and hold off a week on this one.
Why don't we do that? And I
Because
want to
I think
ask,
you're right. It doesn't seem like there's just
Yeah,
way
too
too
many.
many people.
Yeah.
So I
then
would.
you also
I would-
have the lake, you also have the next one is the Lake Management Canal Commission.
Right, and we can clarify that with Dick on that one too.
Okay. By the way, where's the software we bought last year to keep track of this stuff?
It was ordered. The purchase order had gone out just recently, and it has been ordered.
That was last year's budget though, wasn't it? Not this past year,
I
right?
can't recall. Yeah, it might have been.
Well, here's an easy one. Let's do Chapter 148 Municipal Hearing Officer, Captain Carl Steinhardt. Parking Ticket Hearing Officer, Michelle Hill. And School Crossing Guard, Sean Angel.
Pioneer Valley Planning, Alan
You bet.
Sussman.
I was going to do that. Oh, yeah, he's a town employee. And I think he's a planning board designee, right? Did they
Right.
vote on that?
It
They
says
vote
right
on that,
there.
not us.
Okay. Joe Didi will make the motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
Sewer Implementation Committee, Frida Brown, Randy Brown, Jerry Patria, Art Pinnell, and Brian Pranka.
Joe Didi will make the motion.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
LEPC, we just have a designee, right? We don't have to appoint that whole board? It's just the two?
No, well, you designate, you're the one designated by your board, but then the rest of the other people
Right.
to be appointed, and I believe you made an appointment at your last meeting for
Yeah.
a local business and industry representative.
That was John Kane.
Correct. And then,
So we need to-
you also threw me on there and Carl, right?
Right.
That was
Well,
already
yeah,
done.
Oh, I wasn't aware that it was done last. I thought there was only one person that was appointed at the last meeting, and no other committee members have been reappointed yet.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that there was a vote for you to be the select board's representative, but I don't believe we took a vote to redo Carl and John Kane was appointed to the committee. Now he would have to be reappointed.
Right, well, right, and then all the other ones were, because Doug, that, you were designated under the board's reorganization of its members, just like Joe got put on Capcom.
Okay. So what are you looking for, a motion for me
Uh,
and you?
No, you have to renew the entire committee for 1 year, because you already have, Mr. Kane was already done for the year at a July meeting, so he's already good for fiscal year 21.
Okay.
But aren't those members appointed by their, whatever. I'll take a motion for the rest of the LEPC.
No, that's maybe that's the way CPC, but actually, no, you actually have to do.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion for the rest of it.
Joe
And
Didi will
unfortunately,
make, Joe Didi will make the
Russ Fox will
motion
second.
as written for all those members.
Russ Fox will second.
okay. I have to read it sideways, so I'm missing a page in my printout. Sorry. All right. Thank you. Doug Mogul, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
And you'll notice, Doug, there's quite a few alternates. We had to do that also to make sure that would be good for quorums and that people could be representing entities if the primary person was not present.
Gotcha. And then the 250 committee,
Joe Didi
Now
will
that-
make a motion for the 251st committee.
I was going to
as
say 251, right?
Yeah.
Russ Fox will second.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
Great. And for anyone who's going to listen to this tape and you want to serve on a board or committee, see myself, Joe Didi, or Russ Fox, or send a letter of interest to the
Yeah.
select board.
All right, so I will follow up with Dick on those, the breakdown of the LMC and the canal committee compositions, okay?
And we also need to carry, you and I, Carl, need to finish that, that document. I promised He might have that done within 2 weeks of a week ago. Oh boy. Goals and objectives?
Yep.
Yep.
You don't need to hold it up, Carl. Everybody have a copy?
Yes, sir.
Carl's
Yep.
hand's going to get tired if we don't. Okay. All right, so I have a ton of notes, but so why don't we take it from the top? And just everyone feel free to jump in anywhere you want. Sidewalk system, safe route to school. Are we still carrying that one on here?
The school is still working. We sent a letter to see where they were at, and they were going to be doing some of the projects, but I think the pandemic has slowed that down to a crawl. But technically, we're still involved.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. If
Mr.
I'm
Barr.
recognized. Randy, on obviously, one of the things you're looking at, that other state program was another segment of Depot Street, if we can get it through that program, or we always have the Sidewalk Bank Fund for small dollars. The Powder Mill Road one, would that also possibly be an eligible item to connect the rail trail with the schools, or is it only just the business community?
No, that's certainly one of the projects we're looking at. It could be potentially be a safe route to schools program, or it could fall under the other program we talked about, which is the COVID-born grant program to improve and promote, multi-use of different facilities, sidewalks, and roadways. So there are some issues along Powder Mill Road in terms of right-of-way issues that Dick's looking into. If we were to extend that sidewalk all the way to Depot Street.
Have him work with Dave. Dave Loring worked on that original design, Elmer Huntley, back in the 90s when we had to put it on hold because of the need to align ourselves with the construction schedule of Mass Highway to do that Powder Mill project, Powder Mill Road and South Long Yard. So that ended up being a casualty where it wasn't done because of the very things you're talking about. The resolution of the right-of-way issues where a right-of-way certificate could not be signed off. So I think David Loring at that time was an engineer in training for his PE. So he has familiarity and knowledge over that area. And of course, now you deal with him on other projects in another firm. How does that sound?
Yeah. That's sounds like you're aging yourself right there, Carl.
I am.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dick was trying to get his hands on those Huntley Associate plans
Okay.
and see if we can pick off where they left off.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then the Depot Street Phase 2 sidewalk, did you just tie that all together?
Yep. That's all in there. That's something we're looking at.
Yeah, if I can chime in there, Mr. Chairman, I think at our last meeting, we decided to use the sidewalk funds from current development projects to finish that section Depot Street.
Yep.
Okay. Number 3 is economic development and an economic outreach program. I think that's just generally ongoing, correct?
Well, I think that speaks to the issue of your newly appointed member to that board. So that is going to help get the board with the right membership to undertake that program.
Excellent. Number 4 and 6, because there was no 5. Can we close those two out at this point? I mean, Congamon Road is all over but the Shoughton, right? And the 250 is, the events are pushed back to next year, but, or, yeah.
Well,
Should we take them off of our goals and objectives for
Mr.
2021?
Mr. Chairman,
Absolutely.
I think Congamon Road could be removed because, as you said, it's all over but the shouting. And we'll see how we end up, whether we end up in a court of law or we come to some sort of compromise. But for the town 250, the chairman of that, Mr. Putnam, has been doing some brainstorming of an event that we might want to consider for November 7th, which is our birthday. So I would probably want to keep the 250 anniversary committee on our goals and objectives at this time.
Okay. Open space report update, that's been approved and done. I think we can carry that, close that one out, correct?
Yep.
The cell tower, that's pending planning board action at this point, correct?
I have, Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
I was contacted by the legal firm representing Verizon on that location today, and they are trying to get a hold of the planning board to go forward with it. They're very anxious to have the special permit hearing on that matter start as soon as possible because they're behind their corporate schedule. And I also think in light of the pandemic, there's a lot of demand for their types of services that will be accommodated through this cell tower installation.
Well, planning board is meeting tonight. I will endeavor to get there after this meeting.
Could you do that and just convey that we were contacted late this afternoon by counsel for Verizon, and because they filed the permit in April, and of course, you know, the time frames of permits through the governor's order were suspended, so they weren't under a statutory deadline where the result of non-action would be a constructive grant. So that's not in play.
That's not in play, correct?
That is not in play.
Okay, so we want to carry this one around until we,
Oh, yeah,
that
just
comes to
leave it.
some
We got to leave that till it goes through. And there's a disposition on that because that is that's an important part of your economic development plan and revenue generation options outside of real estate taxes.
gotcha. Transfer station, recycling?
Well, I could add a couple of things, and maybe Randy can add what things too. The Southwick Lions, who collect the returnable bottles and cans, some of the staff members at the transfer station approached them about doing even more and promoting heavily that we'd like to get those returnables out of our recycling bin. And my conversations with some of the members of the Lions, they're open to that, and they were looking at possibly getting another structure down there, small structure down there, so that because they fill up those barrels so quickly, they're sometimes they have to empty them 4 times on a Saturday. So I reached out to Carl, and Carl reached out to our police department, and one of our sheds that we had by the animal control facility might be available. And that might be something that we could get down to the transfer facility, help the Lions get more of those returnables out of that recycling stream.
Excellent. All right, so we can carry this item forward. And that's great. The more we can reduce the load going out of there, the better. On the update on the road rename project, I did reach out to Chief Bishop for an update on that. And he's down to, I think it's just one road that needs to be renamed at this point, is his opinion. find it real quick.
Right, that's why I put chief amending the scope.
Right. So he was going to host a community meeting, but pandemics happen. The only street that he's recommending to be changed is except the Depot Street condo at Southwick Hill Road, which they've already kind of done, right?
Not really. They still have Southwick Hill.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
the
still has
ones
to
at the
be
on
top
both
need to get
sides.
changed. Right.
Right.
That's
Right,
the
they-
one that needs to get changed.
Right.
Right.
But, Mr. Chairman, I would still say that I really think we need to look at Evergreen where the road is split.
Yeah.
I mentioned that before, and I still think that we need to look at that.
I agree.
Well, if you want to do that, we could have Cindy put the chief and the safety officer, Banish, on a future select board meeting to discuss those locations and then make it clear for them and then go forward with that process.
Yes, please.
Okay, so Sandra, you'll mark that as an agenda appointment? Thank you.
Community compact for fitness.
Yeah,
Good
I
Lord.
spoke to the consultant CPA, Doug. That's that firm Kinsfer, and preparing to work with our accounting department and our office on those issues for those two projects. So I had a conversation within the last 2 weeks with them. Again, it's one of those things where everybody's projects are going to be behind somewhat in the state. When we sign this contract, give us 2 years to work on this. So we do have some flexibility there. So the issue is going to happen.
Okay. And the townwide roads, we just had our site visit last week, and
Yeah,
we
I think that's
decided
done for this
the
year.
project, but I think we still got to carry it because it's going to be an ongoing forever issue. But we did our site visit and kind of made our choices for this year. Ad hoc high-speed internet, that's carried right now as a select board agenda item. We have to set some time up to discuss, at a future meeting, whether it's in August or in September, to select or discuss what we're going to do, if we're going to do anything to proceed or not. So we'll just carry that. If that's okay, we'll just carry that forward.
Sure.
Town hall Wi-Fi.
It is substantially done, but it is not finished.
Okay.
So I'm waiting to hear back from our local state vendor on that issue, on the punch list issues. And so I want to keep that in place here.
Okay.
I will tell you, timing of that being done worked out very well, and it has been very helpful.
I'd like to add to that. We're going to need to, as part of it was in the planning, but I don't know that we ever executed on it. We're going to need to start moving toward executing on it, as if we ever get to the point where we're able to start reopening things, is to add the ability for us to do that meeting broadcast from the selectmen's conference room, land use room, and the auditorium.
Right,
So-
and we have been putting money aside in the Channel 15 budget, but I wanted to make sure that we finished the wireless capability outfitting in the policies and all those issues first. We need to make sure that's in place and it's solidly there, before we go to that next step, because this is a very important part of supporting that other effort.
Correct. I just want to add that into that item because that would be the closeout for that.
Okay, so that's a Joe Didi issue that he had brought up in the past that he had committed himself to doing. So we will carry that broadcast capability.
You got raised eyebrows from all over the place, Carl, but you're good. All right. Fire station masonry and roof.
Okay, today I had the pre-construction conference with the building inspector came through, met with them. He had issued the building permits. The fire chief, the deputy, myself, the clerk of the works, Mr. Lawler, were present with the design firm and the GC firm, which is going to be doing the roofing and the gutters, and the masonry firm. So they were settling on issues like grout, the brick stuff. The staging is being delivered next week. The mason, the mason hopes to start next week. He's envisioning that because we're doing 100%, that it's going to take 12 weeks for his part, but the roofing is going to get done a lot faster. So that's
If
why.
it takes the mason 12 weeks, what do you put the roof on if the building's missing? I'm
No,
kidding.
yeah, that's not an issue. Yeah. So anyway, that was today's meeting. So
Okay.
it's underway.
We still need to continue the Channel 15 outreach to get more people to be able to train and film.
Yep.
And we also need to be able to get the people who are running meetings to be able to directly push the Channel 15. Now that we have the Channel 15 issue resolved so that it doesn't explode the entire town's network every time they try to use it, that the Zoom people, if you're a board secretary or you're a Zoom moderator, you should be able to push your meeting directly to Channel 15. So that we
Right.
can work on
And
that.
the other important thing we need to do is to make sure they can't plug or unplug anything and ever create a loop again.
That has nothing to do with, yes, but that's another piece of somewhere else on here. So yeah. Promote volunteer opportunities and reappointments.
I think you've already done that, Doug.
Well, I've been begging, and we got a couple of people. We got a new moderator, new to town government. The high-speed internet committee was all new, but we still need to be, if you're out and about in the community, probably not during a disaster when people are upset. It's not the right time to ask people to join a board or commission. Ask me how I know.
I mentioned you quite a bit this weekend. I heard every corner was Doug Moglen. Doug Moglen. Even the electric guy was trying to arrest you. Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. My new best friend, Russ, the Eversource guy.
Yeah.
From Louisiana.
No, he was from around here, and
Oh.
it was interesting, but it ended up being a super nice guy in the end. Anyway, that needs to be a continual thing. We still need people to come out for boards and commissions.
Okay, we'll
and
leave it.
other assignments. Review transportation services for COA.
Russell, I believe, were you making a call on that recently?
The individual, Ruth Gallagher, who, came to our board one night to talk about the problems she was facing and other people with disabilities. She was reaching out to Congressman Neal, who said that he would be willing to contact Pioneer Valley PVTA, to try to expedite the works that Carl and I and the Council on Aging had, the meeting we had with the director of the PVTA, as far as Southwick joining the PVTA in addition to Franklin.
That's correct.
Additional services.
Right. You are permitted to have membership in two separate regional transit authorities now.
So hopefully, I know the pandemic has obviously slowed everything down, but with the congressman reaching out, maybe we can hopefully get things back on track and proceed to get some sort of understanding and additional services for people with disabilities in the town of Southwick.
Good. I'm changing fiscal year 21 to 22 budget. since that's always seems to be an ongoing process, right? So we might as well get a head start for 22. And number 20, I changed that to, we should have continued recruiting for firefighter, paramedic, career staff, because that seems to be an ongoing challenge that we're having.
Right. Well, that's why that fits into number 21, where contract negotiations with 5 units. Actually, we're down to 4 units because at your last meeting, you just agreed to something with one of the units.
Yep. So we have 4 more units to go, correct?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. ADA plan update. So we have the project is outlined now. We got to start picking at them, right?
Exactly, and that's why we do have Jim Mazik under contract, and we have some issues we could do. One of them might be to have Jim pursue the north side clerk's entrance was identified, and it makes sense probably to seek the waiver from that state agency on that issue in light of the fact that we have a handicap ramp with a waiver 30 feet west of it up into the front door. So most with that and some other low-hanging fruit I was going to work with Jim on, but he's finishing 3 or 4 other ADA plans and was going to be busy the next 3 or 4 months. So I told him I would speak to him after those obligations were done.
And then we also want to talk about potentially adopting or revising our hearing process and to come into compliance with the rules there, because right now we're missing a step, right? Because we have 2 people, the same person in charge of 2 steps, right? So you and I were going to talk about that, correct?
Yep. We're gonna identify another department, maybe and reassign and enhance and enlarge some of their duties of their job description, and essentially I'll probably reclassify them.
Yep. Okay.
Because it makes sense to still have the 3 steps instead of to have someone below the CAO level instead of starting with it and keep that at level 2.
Correct. Rules and signage for open space parcels. We still want to keep chasing on that?
Oh, I think we
Yes.
absolutely want to keep.
Correct.
I think Russell has reached out to some people to try to convince them and maybe reconsider their positions in the past.
Chief of Police Recruitment.
Thank you, Doug.
Do my best there, sir. Chief of Police Recruitment. I mean, that we know that we're on notice that we're on notice. We're on notice that the police chief is leaving us, and I think we talked about pushing this into our first meeting in September to start discussions on that process, correct?
Sounds good.
Right,
Correct.
because that, Mr. Chairman, that also relates to item number 25, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a net loss of 1 person when Kevin retires. So what the boards have historically done is they've gone through a process to consider their other reserves and to meet with those people on the bench and to figure out who needs to do what to get to the point where they can go into a full-time slot and keep our staffing level where it needs to be and make sure we have the new body in place when Kevin goes out the door on June 30th. And that's going to relate to the timing of the police academy too.
Correct. But I think the other has to play out first so that you understand what the gaps are. So, and then,
Well, at the end of the day, it's still a net loss where you're going to need a patrolman.
correct. Water drainage issue at 325, 327 College Highway.
That was the issue that I had.
Yep.
That people
part
had
of the-
approached me, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
And I think Randy has some history on this, where they, DPW applied for grant funding to help out, but it didn't go through. But I think, like I said before, it's if we go ahead with the project on Claus Anderson, it's only going to create more water going down there. So uh, I know it's a private way, and but it's still if we can do anything at all to help out these people, it'll help to keep the values of the properties up, which produces revenue for the town of Southwick. So.
I have no objection. Do you want to carry that on here as a select board goal and objective, or should this be more in a?
I just didn't want it to get lost, Mr. Chairman. Maybe Randy can tell us where we're at with the project on Claus Anderson with the state, where we had the lieutenant governor out and the secretary out.
Yeah, that design is almost complete. We had a conference call with Mr. Tom Arnold about a week ago. He has some questions and concerns about what may or may not be happening on his property as a result of the pool replacement. Bottom line is, I don't think there's many impacts that they're not currently seeing on their Arnold property, and the same thing for this second property, the 325, 327 College Highway. That said, I mean, yeah, it certainly is an issue that needs to be addressed. Those people can't access their houses off College Highway during any kind of even a small rain event that their driveway overtops. So
Would that, Randy, would that lend it?
As Mr.
Yeah. I was just wondering whether or not the
as
next,
Mr. Fox noted,
yeah.
go ahead. As Mr. Fox noted, that is a private driveway, so we are somewhat limited in what we can do to help those town residents. Go ahead, Carl.
I was just wondering whether or not the next time Fuss and O'Neill comes to town, whether you and them and Russ could just go out to that site and look at it and see whether or not any of that comes in, can be addressed as sort of under the law of unintended consequences, where fixing one issue over on Claus Anderson will exacerbate this issue even more. It's one thing to have some water there. The question is, if it is even more, is that something that could be done in that other second application we're trying to pursue through Fuss and O'Neill through the Environmental Affairs Agency MVP program?
Yeah, we can certainly look at it. We did some pretty extensive modeling of Mr. Arnold's property to identify what the impacts would be to his property.
All right.
And they are, in my opinion, nominal, if any, impacts. And so we're working through those issues with Mr. Arnold. Certainly, we can talk these other property owners with Mr. Fox and anybody else who would like to attend and see what we can do to help with their situation.
Okay.
Great. So Mike, do you want to carry this under old business, or do you want to carry this on this select board goals?
Well, keeping it on this is as good as keeping it on old business, so this is fine.
Fantastic. Okay. And
Okay.
then, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering if there was anything else that we were,
I was going to ask Russ and Joe to see if they have any other items that they want to add to this list as a goal and objective for this coming year.
Mr. Chairman, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think we got quite a bit on our plate right now.
Joseph,
Speechless.
you're speechless. You look how I feel today, I'm telling you. So I only have one, and that's, the continued to recruit, sorry, not that one, to continue the town's, technology and digital transformation that was started and working with Laura, and that was funded under the budget to adopt that managed services model. And there's some software initiatives and stuff going on, especially in light of this pandemic. We are going to have more workers potentially being remote for extended periods of time and using different devices and moving around. I think we're going to need to continue down that path. So I'd like to add that as 27 or whatever this list gets renumbered at,
right.
to continue through and follow it through that we get it done. Because we had funded the O365 stuff last year. We carried it into this year, And I want to execute on that this year, and then the other piece.
Doug, I think we should also, as part of this process, identify it if it makes sense to pursue another grant through that Executive Office of Technology office.
Yep.
That we did. I mean, we have an established rapport with the people that run the program,
Yep.
who have seen us take the money that they gave us before and go and implement everything, and they gave us a report as a result of that, and part of the recommendations of that was for us to pursue the managed service provider, which we then went through the budget and put in the dollars for that too.
Correct.
So that'll be part of that review.
Oh, yeah, because it's been 3 years, right? So we're eligible again.
Exactly. We can now go for other grants. So I would like to, have a working group identify those things, and then we can work with our state computer contract vendor, and we can see what the next application would look like, and then we can coordinate that with Laura and go from there.
Excellent.
Because those dollars are there, so let's go capture them.
All right, so next week, we're meeting executive session 5:30 and then regular meeting at 6.
Yep.
Is there anything we need to go over today before we close out this meeting? Mr. Fox?
Under-
Mr. Didi? Mr. Steinhardt?
Under old business, the fire department air conditioning unit replacement, the condensate unit, that's all been done. It's replaced, it's up and running, and they're back to fully being cooled, which they appreciated. The CARES Act, I think I've sent you the information that the town of Agawam is signing the contract with the DHCD. And then they're going to turn around and sign with PVPC, and then they're going to start getting ready for training in August and September, and going forward with us to start the outreach program to our businesses. So that is going to be happening soon.
Mr. Fox? Mr. Didi?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing, sir.
You want to make a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Mr. Fox will second that.
Doug Moglen, aye.
Joe Didi, aye.
Russ Fox, aye.
We are adjourned. Thank